Without equivocation, I'm the one candidate for mayor of the city of Chicago who represents the interest of the average people. I have a very complete and full understanding of everything it takes to run Chicago city government. Jane Byrne had an even more thin resume than mine when she was elected mayor of the city of Chicago. Now, we're not saying that she did a great job, but Jane Byrne did not sink the city of Chicago as it's sinking now under Mayor Rahm Emanuel.
Gentlemen, good evening. Enforcement of existing marijuana laws costs Chicago tens of millions of dollars, and disproportionately arrests target the African American community. By comparison, marijuana is legal in Colorado, and they take in tens of millions in taxes. Is it time to legalize recreational marijuana in Chicago? Mr. Walz.
Yes.
Mr. Emanuel.
No.
Yes. Not yet, but we should keep an eye toward it.
Mr. Wilson.
I would say, yes, they're going to smoke it anyway.
Mr. Emanuel, now you get a question from Jay Levine.
Mr. Emanuel, you've been endorsed by all three major Chicago newspapers. You won in 2011 in the primary with big help and great majorities in the African American community. If you've done all you said you were going to do and kept all your promises, why are you having such a hard time, by all accounts, sealing the deal in the African American community?
Well, because 4 years ago, I promised that we were going to challenge the status quo. The status quo was failing the city of Chicago, failing the residents, jobs, families, and companies were leaving. And I promised that we were going to take on that, make change to policies that were forcing people to leave. We made sure that we no longer had a two-tiered system where half our kids got a half a day of kindergarten and paid the consequences for that decision for the rest of their lives. Now every child in the city of Chicago, regardless of where they're from, gets a full day of kindergarten. We also made sure we balanced 4 budgets in a row without a property sales or gas tax increase. 4 years in a row we put money back.
If that's a strong argument for attracting voters, not losing them, why do minorities and neighborhoods feel you are neglecting them? What's the reason for it if all that what you just said is true?
Jay, the core part of politics is about leading, not about popularity.
Over the course of your career, to point to one accomplishment that you think qualifies you to run the city of Chicago.
Sure. As a top assistant to Mayor Harold Washington, the Sun-Times did a comparison between top members of the Byrne administration and key members of the Washington administration. And back in 1984, the Sun-Times declared that Byrne had no top aide as talented as Bill Walz. I was responsible for reorganizing the Department of Streets and Sanitation, the Department of Water, the Department of Sewers, the Department of Inspectional Services. Sat in on 70% of Harold Washington's meeting. I was his go-to guy. I was that person that you had to get to Harold Washington. So I was trusted, even at an early age, with responsibility far beyond my years.
Thank you, Mr. Walz. We're out of time, but Robin has a question for you.
I do. I guess we can blame you or praise you for TIF, that thing that very few of us understand. Tax increment financing was Harold Washington's plan to develop areas that were blighted, where development wasn't going. How has that worked out, and where would you take TIF?
It's worked out horribly, primarily because of the porting aspects of TIF. That means that you can take money from a blighted community and move it in towards downtown, one district at a time. Additionally, the focus has been skewed. I would use TIF funds for housing purposes, affordable housing, to create grocery stores in our communities, to make certain that we have infrastructure improvement consistent with other communities in the city of Chicago.
And Mr.
Found that the cameras put $600 million into city coffers since 2003. You've said you've balanced budgets without property sales or gasoline tax hikes. But speed and red light camera tickets, hikes in city stickers, water and sewer fees, and phone and cable TV taxes hit taxpayers equally hard. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, what is the difference?
Jay, for Mr. Garcia.
Mr. Garcia, you have criticized the mayor for the appearance of impropriety for taking millions of dollars in campaign contributions from people who end up doing business with the city. But aren't you open to the same criticism for taking money in free legal fees for your son, legal work for your son, from a firm that ended up doing bond business with the county, and for voting and taking money, campaign contributions from a red light camera company before you made a vote? Not directly related. We're talking about appearance of impropriety here.
No. That I received that you're referring to came from a 30-year friend who has supported me to the Cook County Board, to other elective positions that I have sought in the City Council and in the State Senate. A longtime friend, had nothing to do. We were simply responding to a request from a suburb to install a red light camera. They chose the vendor. We had no say-so over that. Cook County has no red light cameras installed in its premises.
Once again, we're talking about the appearance of impropriety, and isn't there also an appearance of a conflict if you are negotiating for the city of Chicago against, for example, the Chicago Teachers Union, which is funding and adding muscle to your campaign for mayor?
Jay, my record of public service speaks for itself, never blemished. I have stood up for good government. I have been transparent. I have been endorsed by the most people with the most integrity.
Mr. Emanuel, Mr. Walz has accused you of pay to play. A Chicago Tribune investigation would seem to validate that. It says that you have given many, many perks to people who have been part of that $30 million campaign stash. How do you respond to that?
As I said earlier, first of all, I've participated my whole life with Senator Obama when I was a congressman. We passed landmark lobbying and ethics reform. We got the city from underneath federal oversight of our hiring because of the integrity and professionalism we put in the system. We expanded the Inspector General that helps us root out fraud and abuse throughout the system. And we made sure that we changed the culture in city government.
Mr. Walz.
Willie Wilson, your products are manufactured in China, and you don't hire people in the city of Chicago to do that work. So what does your company bring to the Chicago economy?
Well, I do have employees in Chicago. I have about 10 employees in Chicago. I got 4 in China. I do business in China because of the global economy. The clothes you're wearing, Mr. Walsh, is from China, in case you didn't know it. All right? So what haven't got to be done is this here, is that, look, we give away over $800,000 million a year to church and other organizations.
Mr. Emanuel, your 10-second question.
Well, I'd rather talk directly to the voters about their questions, and their questions are, what are we going to do for our children? Our measure...
Please, a question, Mr. Emanuel.
At least once follow the rules,
yeah.
what we're here for.
I think...
Question to a candidate, sir.
Chuy Garcia, you voted for the largest property tax in the history of Chicago, which the people are still paying for, and then you took an $8,500 illegal deduction. Why would you do that, given the consequences that everybody has to now still pay for the largest property tax increase?
Mr. Walz, I would ask you, because you look like you were raring to answer that one, is understanding the history of African-American disenfranchisement necessary to fixing it?
Absolutely. You know, from 1619 to 1865, we had 246 years of legalized slavery in America. And then we had Jim Crow for 100 years. Blacks have not been treated any better under this administration than we were under Jim Crow. Blacks are disenfranchised. We're not allowed in most areas of the city. We're priced out of most areas in this city, and it's unfair and unequal. There are 2 Chicagos. Rahm Emanuel has a Chicago on the north, northwest, southwest sides, and a whole different philosophy of governing on the south and west sides of the city of Chicago.
Time, Mr.
and it hasn't
Walz.
gotten any better.
Time, Mr. Walz, but Jay has a question for you.
Mr. Walz, we found out this morning that President Obama is coming to Chicago 5 days before the election to announce that Pullman will become a National Historic Site. Is this going to be a game changer when he gives Mr. Emanuel credit for this?
I don't believe it will be. Surprise, surprise. People were expecting Barack Obama to come in and endorse Rahm Emanuel because Rahm Emanuel is in trouble. His failed policies have not endeared himself to the people of the city of Chicago. The people of the city of Chicago aren't doing any better now than they were prior to his election, prior to his administration. People remember how good it felt when Harold Washington was mayor of the city of Chicago. You knew that you had opportunity. You knew that you had a place, and you knew that you had someone fighting for you. People do not feel like that about Rahm Emanuel, and even Barack coming here will not help him.
Jay?
Mr. Wilson?
40 years in politics, and you take a campaign contribution from an individual on a vote the day before, the red light cameras. At the same time, in a short period of time after you declared your candidacy, you decided to change your position on elected school board. How can the voters trust what you say here today and what you're going to do tomorrow? And how can you be the voice of progressive politics when you've changed your stances so many times?
Bob, you're not my opponent, and I have never criticized you, even though there were many opportunities to do so. My opponent is standing to your right there.
Question, Mr. Emanuel.
Why would you vote for selling the parking meter deal in the first place?
First of all, on the original deal before us, the administration lied to us. Your administration instead did not only lie to us, but refused to give us the documents that we requested to make an informed decision on a vote.
Rahm Emanuel, under your watch, police officers have shot and killed blacks and Latinos at a higher rate than in most cities. And you have yet to speak out about that. You have not shown leadership on that issue. Why? Now you come into the black community and you want to campaign for votes, but you think that we have a short memory. We don't. Why do you think that we have a short memory?
We all need to have prayer. And I'm going to pray. All right? And I'm going to pray for the lady who got killed, the ICE people today. I pray for everybody up here. This is my prayer. And dear Lord, we thank you for your grace and your mercy. Thank you, dear Lord, for all of us allowing us to get here tonight. And bless all of these men up here today, dear Lord, and all the women and all of us who came tonight. We ask you for your grace and your mercy. We ask, dear Lord, for your loving kindness. For though I be free from all men, yet have I made myself a servant unto all, that I might gain the most. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow us all the days of our life, and that we should dwell, O Lord, in your house forever. And as we get ready to leave this place, dear Lord,
Forgive me,
get in the
Mr.
car
Wilson.
and guide us home and drive us
Time.
out.
Hate to cut off that pipeline, but Mr. Emanuel?
Amen. It's a prayer. You do not interrupt prayer.
I'm the only candidate for mayor of the city of Chicago who will keep Chicago's promise. That's a commitment to public safety, public education, affordable housing, senior care, full employment, balanced economic development, equal access for the disabled, and when all else fails, charity. I'm the only candidate for mayor of the city of Chicago who can unify this city by promoting cultural and diversity sensitivity amongst people of all ages, races, socioeconomic backgrounds, all religious persuasions, all sexual orientations, all physical and mental disabilities or limitations, because I understand that none of us is any better than the rest of us.
Came to win, to fight, to conquer, to thrive. I came to win, to survive.